there, everybody. My name's Deanna. This is my first episode of Ropes and Heels. It's a podcast, video, YouTube type thing. It's my first one ever, so yay! Hooray! So here's the thing. We need to talk. I know it's the first episode, and I'm already like, we need to talk. But yeah, all these Vince McMahon allegations with the WWE and former talents and present talents and who knows who else being involved, that's just it's just been weighing on my brain a lot these past couple weeks, as I'm sure it has with a lot of people who are into wrestling and, really love wrestling. Even people who don't know anything about wrestling are saying some things. And first and foremost, I just want to express these are my opinions, these are my thoughts. None of this is actually factual yet. So that may or may not change. Um, but I've been a wrestling fan for over 40 years. Um, I grew up watching WWF and WWE. My first favorite wrestler ever was Wendy Richter, and funny how she was one of the first wrestlers to be done wrong by Vince McMahon, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. You know, these allegations are pretty serious, and I don't have any reason to believe that they are false. Um, I firmly believe that innocent people don't need to pay hush money, period. So there's that. And the fact that he, did start to pay her, and I'm talking about Miss Janelle Grant, the fact that he did start to pay her and then he ceased payment for whatever reason, just, I don't know. Something just doesn't sit with me right about that. Um, these allegations are gruesome. I didn't read all 67 pages of the allegations in the court docs. I made it to about page 40 before I got too too grossed out to continue. Um, and I'm not going to go into much detail about that. The court docs are online, so if you haven't read them yet and you want to know what I'm talking about, feel free to find them. If I can find a link, I'll go ahead and put it in the description. But again, I'm new to this, so just bear with me for the amateur hour that you're about to go through. And I hope I'm not here for an hour, but you never know. I have a lot to say. So let's start with um, some of the people who have already been named, like John Laurinaitis. Um, that broke my heart. Um, One of my favorite tag teams growing up was the Road Warriors, and if you didn't know, John Laurinaitis is the brother to Road Warrior Animal, Joe Laurinaitis, and it just breaks my heart because I don't know if this is something that they could have been involved in. Um, Hawk and Animal are both passed away, so they can't even like defend themselves or anything if any allegations come out. And this is just, me projecting and prospecting. I hope their slates are clean. Precious Paul Ellering, I know in my heart of hearts has a clean slate. It's just, it's just very disturbing, all these allegations. My heart goes out to Brie and Nikki Bella, as John Laurinaitis is their stepfather. He's married to their mother. And I'm sure this is just a really hard time for their family as well as the McMahon family. And the Grant family, obviously. My heart also goes out to Mia Lesnar, Brock Lesnar's daughter, because I'm sure this is really hard for her to have to hear these prospected allegations towards her father. Um, he hasn't been officially named, but just due to what the court documents say, all signs are kind of pointing to him as being a participant in the for a lack of a better word, debauchery. Um, it's just it's just disgusting and disturbing. I've been watching wrestling probably my entire life, but I really only have knowledge or recollection of my wrestling experience probably since like 1982. I remember WrestleMania 1, and I remember Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T and all that good stuff. So let's go to WrestleMania 1 and talk about Wendy Richter. Wendy Richter was at one point probably the best women's wrestler in the whole world. She was phenomenal. She was beautiful. She knew how to move in the ring. She knew what she was doing. And back in those days, all women wrestlers were trained by the Fabulous Moolah. And Fabulous Moolah had, she had a monopoly on women's wrestling at that time. Basically, you couldn't wrestle unless you trained with her, and you had to pay her to live on her compound, and you worked wherever she told you to work. You worked whenever she told you when to work. And, she got a reputation of um, trying to not get banned on YouTube on my first video, but she was trafficking these women to promoters, male promoters, and engaging in acts and so on. And not on top of that, but she was taking a lot of money from these girls as well. Because back then, wrestling wasn't paying very much. It wasn't as mainstream as it is now, where, you have these wrestlers making millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. Back then, you were lucky if you were getting like $75 a pop, and that's generous. And she was basically, taking a hefty percentage of their earnings because she was charging such a ridiculous amount to train these women. Um, she almost broke Wendy Richter's back during a match, and Wendy Richter is part of the original screw job. If you don't know what that is, I suggest you look it up and do some research on Fabulous Moolah. And of course, all this stuff about Moolah didn't come out until she had passed away because people were scared of her. She could, she could cut off your career just like that. No questions asked, no second thought in her mind whatsoever, because as her name states, she was all about the money. And it's just really disheartening the amount of women's careers that she cut short just because they didn't want to do what she was trying to force them to do. And it's just disgusting. And to me, it all makes so much sense as to why Fabulous Moolah and Vince McMahon Jr. got along so well. And I was talking with some friends this week, and I was just like, wow, maybe Moolah taught him this. Maybe she taught him how to do this. And, it's just very disheartening that something that so many people love is now tainted because of these people and what they did. It's really sad. And yeah, I'm not just fake crying for views or anything like that. Like I'm really upset about it because I love wrestling. It's my passion. It's just it's just so sad. With that said, I have a list of people I think knew. I have a list of people I think participated, and I have a list of people I think were completely oblivious. Obviously, I think anybody in the Bloodline family, the Anawai family, um, I think they were kept safe just because of their lineage. They're no matter where anybody in that family goes, no matter what company, no matter what promotion, they're good. They're fine. And I'm talking about like The Rock or Rocky Johnson even, or the Wild Samoans, or even Yokozuna, no matter wherever those people went in their careers, they were always going to be okay. And even to this day, even like Nia Jax, Roman Reigns, the Usos, Naomi, no matter where they go, they're going to be okay. I don't think that they had to do any deviant acts to get to where they are because they are all extremely incredibly talented, and that is something to be admired. Well, not Nia Jax, but everyone else in that family, no matter where they go, they're going to be okay. Um, I think a lot of the like lineage families were not in on these acts. Like the Rhodes family, and I know this is controversial, but I really don't think the Flairs, even Ric Flair with his, checkered past or whatever, but think about it, Ric Flair was never in WWE or WWF until the early mid 90s, I believe. I think he came in 91 or 92. Excuse me. Um, so I think he came in like 91 or 92. So a lot of this stuff was already happening before Ric Flair was even involved in WWE or WWF. And I don't think he had anything to do with it. And yeah, you can talk about the fucking plane ride from hell or whatever, but seriously, I don't think Ric Flair was participating in things like that. With that said, there are some really big stars I do think were involved. And before we get into that, I want to put in, like I think it was this week or late last week, Paul Roma made a statement talking about how his partner, his tag team partner, um, was asked to perform sexual acts with other men in the company and he refused and therefore he was written off. And Paul Roma was saying that, his partner wasn't the only one. There are other guys who were doing it too. And, just so that they could have their career. And I really do think a lot of the big, big stars from, all the way from the 80s to current probably did participate in that just so that they could have the career that they've always wanted. And I definitely think Hulk Hogan was one of them. Um, Hulk Hogan, I grew up when Hulkamania was the thing, and I hated the guy. I was like 6 years old, and I just couldn't stand that guy. I There was just something about him that I just couldn't. I ugh. I felt the same way about Ultimate Warrior, but I don't think he was part of that either. I don't think Ultimate Warrior was a part of it, but I do think Hulk Hogan was. I don't think Macho Man was, just because again, Macho Man has a lineage. His father was Angelo Poffo, who had his own promotion, and you know the Poffo name was pretty big. And in case you didn't know, Macho Man's real name is Randy Poffo. His brother was Lanny Poffo, also known as the Genius or Leapin' Lanny. So I think the Poffos were safe in all of that, but I definitely think Hulk Hogan traded sexual favors for his fame. Absolutely, because I mean, look at his ring work. He wasn't that good. Wow, elbow drop and leg drop. Big deal. Who cares? Okay? He wasn't even the first person to body slam Andre the Giant. And, that's a different thing. I don't think Andre the Giant was involved in any of this stuff either. I don't think the Hart family was involved. Um, but I definitely think Hulk Hogan. We want to get into more modern wrestlers. I don't know, man. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for some of this, but I think John Cena. I think he was involved. Um, I'm really gonna get some hate for this one. Steve Austin. I think he was involved. I think these are the ones I think were trading sexual favors for fame. Um, yeah, I definitely think those guys. I definitely do think that. And this isn't me trying to talk trash on them or about them. These are just my thoughts and opinions. I also think Undertaker knew, but I don't think he participated, but he didn't do anything. to help the people being trafficked. I think he knew. I think he knew. I don't think Mick Foley knew. Um, I don't think Mick Foley knew. I don't think he participated. I don't think he was a part of it. I think they deliberately kept that from him because of who he is as a person. Mick Foley, in his spare time, volunteers with RAIN, which is an organization that does help um, victims of trafficking and sexual abuse. So I don't think Mick Foley was involved or knew of it. Um, I'm just so extremely disappointed that, an industry that so many people love is now like, ugh, like being a wrestling fan is hard anyway because you always get those non-wrestling fans who are like, wrestling's fake, blah, 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 blah. Now they have more fuel to throw at us. And to reiterate, wrestling isn't fake, it's scripted, it's choreographed, but it's not fake. Everything on TV you watch is fake anyway, so why just single wrestling out? Even the news is fake. For crying out loud, even the news is fake. Um, do I think Triple H knew? Yeah, I think he knew. I think Stephanie knew, and I know Shane knew, and that is why Shane left the company, which is good. He went no contact with his father and left the company, but he didn't do anything to help these victims. There's so much he could have done. Even small things. There's so much he could have done. Stephanie, I don't think she participated for the most part. I think maybe um, she was also a victim. I can see Vince being that scuzzy to do that to his own daughter, to traffic her to talent, and that's heartbreaking. Um, I'm not gonna lie, she's right above my head. This lady right here, China. I hold a grudge. I hold a grudge against Triple H and Stephanie for China. Um, I think they've changed since then, and I think they've changed for the better since then. But I don't know. That's always going to float in the back of my brain forever until the day I die. That, if they wouldn't have done to her what they did, we might still have China today. But back on track, I do think Stephanie knew. I think she may have been a victim. And it's really hard for victims to come forward because of society. Um, Thinking everybody's just trying to blame somebody to get some money. But she's Stephanie McMahon. She already has money. I don't know why she wouldn't have said anything if she was a victim, but I definitely do think she was a victim, and I don't think she knew how to help the other people being trafficked. Um, I have a friend who used to date a former WWE superstar. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want any hatred going towards them in any way, shape, form, or another. Um, but she has told me that he has said some stories behind the scenes about things going on. Um, and as much as it hurts my fucking heart, because I grew up loving the Fabulous Freebirds, I think Michael Hayes was involved. Yeah, I think Michael Hayes participated. you know, I'm just, it's a heavy subject. Who do you think knew? Who do you think participated? Who do you think is innocent? It just seems like, at least every week somebody is coming forward and saying, "Hey, this happened when I worked for them, and this happened when I worked for them, and I saw this happen when I was there." So it's gonna be a long, drawn out, ongoing thing. And I want to know what you guys think. I want to know, who do you think was involved? Who do you think is innocent? Who do you think participated? Who do you think started doing this? I honestly think Fabulous Moolah is the one who taught Vince her ways. And that I hate Fabulous Moolah because for a woman to do that to other women is so gross, so sick, so gross, so disgusting. I just, I could never, even if I hated another woman's guts, I could never, ever do that. If I hated a girl's guts and I was walking down the street and I saw that she was being attacked like that, I would step in and help. I just couldn't imagine a woman doing that to another woman. It's so heartbreaking. The whole wrestling industry is just absolutely heartbreaking right now. And I just hope that, we, all the victims get justice. Um, they deserve it. And it's just really difficult to imagine some of this stuff. And John Laurinaitis coming out and trying to say, "Oh, Vince made me a victim too." Bullshit, sir. I'm sorry. I cannot. I cannot. I can't wrap my head around that. I You're high up in the company, dude. Your job is secure, and you're gonna sit there and he forced you to do that with these women? I don't know. I don't think so. Mm-mm. I'm not buying that. I can't. And that's just the males, the male talent. I can't even imagine what he was doing to the female talent. And you look back through like the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression era and look at how the women were treated with the freaking bikini matches and ugh, God, how gross. How gross. And I'm sorry, Trish Stratus, she deserved to be treated better. So did Lita. They deserve to be treated better. The way that oh my gosh. Uh, what they did to Lita's character, like making her out to be like an STD infected woman of the night. That is so horrible because she's so much more talented than that. And she deserved better. Trish Stratus, yeah, she's beautiful. I'm not gonna sit here and say she's not because I mean, even now at her age, she's stunning. She's absolutely gorgeous. But she's so much more than her beauty. She was also extremely talented. She was very talented, very beautiful, and she deserved to be treated better than just, a piece of eye candy for the guys to look at. And oh, that reminds me. You know who else I think was involved? Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler. The guy who likes to date barely, barely legal women. And the way he would act when these women would come out to the ring. whether they were wrestlers or valets or managers, just his reaction. Excuse me. And I get it, you're supposed to react and be like a little over the top, gets views, it gets laughs, it gets this, it gets that. I just don't think it was an act. I don't think it was an act. I think he just let it out however he could. I definitely think that. Um, I mean, uh, I could write a long list of what I know is factual that I can't share, I can't repeat, and my hypotheses and my predictions. But I definitely think Vince McMahon, he's out of wrestling forever. And I mean, he's what, 70 something years old now. Um, it's probably time for him to get out of the business. He's just, and it sucks. It sucks because he created this amazing product. And I'm not going to sit there and deny it. Like the 80s was like the best time for wrestling. I'm old school, so of course I think the 80s and 90s were the greatest time for wrestling. That's when we got a lot of the greatest characters ever. That's when we got um oh my gosh, one of my favorite tag teams, the Rockers. And yes, I think HBK, um I think HBK was in it. I think he was a part of it. I actually think HBK was trafficked himself. And I think Marty was I think Marty was asked to perform acts and he refused. But Shawn said yes. And I think that's why Shawn Michaels, HBK, got the push and Marty got the boot. And people can sit there and they can argue and be like, oh, well, Marty was on drugs and Marty was doing this and party Marty. And, do you ever stop to think there might be a reason why he turned to drugs and alcohol and partying and women? I mean, let's look at the facts. You can look at pictures of the rockers from, the 80s to the 90s. Marty was better looking than Shawn Michaels. He was better. He was more talented. And I just want to say, yeah, Shawn Michaels was talented. He definitely was. I'm not saying he wasn't talented at all. But Marty definitely had more talent. He was better looking. He had the look. He had the better mic skills. So why did Marty get the boot and Shawn got the push? And then now we're on the subject of Shawn Michaels. Let's bring in Sherry Martel. Sherry Martel, before she joined WWF, and when she joined, it was still called WWF. Um, she was an amazing wrestler. Amazing. She was managed by Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette does not manage mid carders. He doesn't manage trash. He doesn't manage jobbers. Jim Cornette, as much as I don't like him, Jim Cornette did not manage trash. Period. He managed the best of the best. And he managed Sherry Martel. And then she jumped to WWF and she became eye candy, a valet, a manager, whatever you want to call her. She wanted to wrestle. There was nobody tougher than her. And I think Fabulous Moolah had a hand in that. Again, Fabulous Moolah took so many careers from these women, and I just, ugh, screw her. I'm glad she's dead. I can't stand her. Mae Young, I love May. I don't think she knew. I don't think she was a part of it. I don't think she knew what her bestie was doing. I think if she knew what her bestie was doing, she wouldn't, be buried right next to her. R.I.P. Mae Young. Love you. Um, but yeah, the women's wrestling has always been like second class. It's always been considered the sideshow, the circus act, whatever. And that's really degrading to the women who put their lives on the line every time they go through those ropes. Mildred Burke, the first women's wrestler, in order for her to even become a wrestler, do you know what they did to her? Do you know? They made her wrestle 200 men, not at the same time, but they made her wrestle 200 men before they would even consider training her and booking her and getting her, gigs, getting her in the ring. How, like, what the hell? Why? Why? Mildred Burke, amazing icon, queen, love her. Um, but yeah, Mullah, no thank you. I'm glad she's gone. And it's so funny. It's pretty freaking funny how she hasn't been walled, so to speak, but they don't really talk about her anymore. They talk about Mae Young, but they don't talk about Mullah as much anymore because of the accusations that came out against her and the way she was treating the women. Um, sorry, I smoke cigarettes, so I cough a lot. But yeah, we got to do better. We got to be better. And it's really funny. I've been seeing a lot of stuff online, and being a woman wrestling fan when you're on the internet is just like, it's awful. It's completely freaking awful because the majority of wrestling fans are men, and men think they know everything there is to know about everything under the sun, and women are stupid and blah 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 blah. And that the women wrestlers are only there to be eye candy, where they're not. They're not. I'd love to see any of these guys go up against China or Beth Phoenix. Let's pick Beth Phoenix because Beth Phoenix is still alive, or Rhea Ripley, or Jade Cargill, or Chris Statlander. I love to see any one of these guys take on any one of those women and then tell me, and tell them to their face that they're just eye candy. Fuck off. Um, anyway, what was I saying? So like, yeah, a lot of these people online, they're saying, oh, everybody in the company knew, everybody was probably a part of it. How can you be there and not know? And it's like, well, how can you watch? How could you watch for as many years as you have and not have known? Aren't you to blame too? I don't think everybody knew. I don't think everybody participated. I think it was just a small handful of these folks who initiated or participated, and I haven't even gotten, oh my gosh, I almost signed off this video without even talking about Pat Patterson. And wow, Pat Patterson, how heartbreaking was that? I don't care. I don't care that Pat Patterson's gay. I actually really love the fact that there were openly gay people in the wrestling industry back then. That's amazing. And I think he may have been the only one at the time who was openly gay. That's great. What's not great is him um, hanging out with underage boys. And Garvin, I can't remember his first name because there's so many Garvins in wrestling, and I don't want to say the wrong one, but it wasn't Ronnie Garvin, and it wasn't his stepdad, but there was another Garvin who was also hanging out with underage boys. and the ring announcer who was hanging out with underage boys. Because back then, what they were doing is they were hiring local teens to come and set up and tear down the rings, and they were called ring boys. And they give them like what, $20 and a candy bar or something like that to set up and tear down the ring. And then these three men were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. And I know Pat Patterson was let go from the company for a while, but then Vince brought him back. Why? Oh, because birds of a feather flock together, for sure. And the ring announcer, he was let go, and he never came back. And I don't remember what happened to Garvin, but I think he was let go as well and never came back. The only one who came back was Pat Patterson, and it sucks. It sucks so bad because not only was he extremely talented, he had a mind for the business. He's the guy who invented the Royal Rumble. Who doesn't love the Royal Rumble? The Royal Rumble is literally my favorite pay-per-view out of all companies every year. It's like the one pay-per-view that like I really, really look forward to watching because it's just so, I don't know, you never know who's gonna come out and when they're coming out. And I mean, it was more exciting like back in the day, like when they were first starting, like when was the first Royal Rumble? I think 88 or 89. I know Hacksaw Jim Duggan won the first one, and I met him. He's a sweetheart. If you have the chance to meet Hacksaw, do it. He's chef's kiss, beautiful person, love him. Um, but back then, like you never knew who was coming out or when they were coming out or anything like that. So it's like anytime like that countdown started, you'd be like, "Who's coming? Who's coming?" And then like the music would hit, and it'd be like, "Yeah!" I mean, now it's pretty predictable because everybody knows, you know, the numbers get leaked, like who drew this number and who drew that number and blah 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 blah. For sure. Pat Patterson, he's despicable. And I hate it. I hate that I have to despise him. And I hate that I have to despise Vince McMahon because, I had a pretty rough childhood. Um and wrestling was my escape. Ric Flair was my hero. Roddy Piper was my hero. Wendy Richter, Marty Jannetty. They were all my heroes. I used to freaking imagine myself telling them, the things that were happening to me, and they would take care of the problem for me. So to find out that like the man who gave me all of those heroes, excluding Ric Flair because he didn't join until the 90s, and I've loved Ric Flair since his NWA days. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that the money and power and fame corrupted these people so badly that they have no remorse. They don't have any appreciation for another person's well-being, whether it's physical or mental. It's heartbreaking that they thought it was okay to do this to other people and to treat them like objects. And it's just disgusting. Again, I want to let the families, um, the McMahon family and the Lesnar family and the Laurinaitis families and the Grant family, my deepest and heartfelt apologies that this happened in your family or in your families. Any other victims, I encourage, if anybody sees this, like I said, this is like my first like podcast. This is my first video. If anybody sees or listens to this and they were victimized come forward. And I'm not talking about just by WWE and Vince McMahon. If you are a victim, come forward. Come forward. You can always message me. I have resources that, I'm happy to hand out. Um, you can always email me at ropesandheels@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at Ropes and Heels. You can even comment here on YouTube. I don't know if you can send messages on YouTube anymore. I know you used to be able to. I really don't use YouTube that often anymore like that. Um, but there are ways to contact me if you need help. I'm willing to help. So I'm not going to try to end this on such a down note. I'm going to try to make this a little happier, a little bit better, a little bit more fun. So yeah, with that said, I do have some announcements coming up. I do have a first guest confirmed for Ropes and Heels. He is a drag queen and he's pretty well known. He's been on a few shows, done a few things, and I can't wait. Oh no, my mic dropped. I guess it's time to go away. Um, but yeah, he's been on a few shows. He's done a few things. He's been my friend for, oh my goodness, 17 years. And I can't wait to have him on here. And we're going to talk about drag and wrestling and probably some horror and share some funny stories that we have about each other, because that's just, who we are as people. We're all people. Everybody's welcome here. Again, I don't tolerate any bullying or sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia. Everyone here is welcome. You're allowed to have a different opinion than me. That's totally fine. Just be respectful. You know, I encourage healthy debates. I encourage a lot of discussion. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know how you guys feel. I want to hear from you. So yeah, hit me up. I don't have an Instagram yet for Ropes and Heels, but I am working on it. I'm getting it together. And until next time, make good choices, be good people. I'm not trying to be James A. Janice, I promise that. But it's a good catchphrase, be good people. So thank you, James A. Janice. If you watch this or hear this, I did get that from you, but it's a good line. Um, but make good choices, be good people, and until next time, we will see each other again. Bye.